Hey guys, I have a 2011 Cadillac SRX that I'm having issues with, and at this point I've run out of options and solutions and I need a remedy, so I'm reaching out to you guys to see if you can help me out. So here's the deal. So I have a 2011 Cadillac SRX, and what's been happening, it's with the 3.0 V6, and what's been happening is I'll drive down the road and the car will stall. Now, we picked up this vehicle in the wintertime because it's all-wheel drive and we thought it'd be a nice little car to have. So we bought it from the dealership locally here in Idaho Falls, the Cadillac dealership to be specific. And we drove it partway through the winter. I think we picked it up in November. And then when spring came and it started to warm up, it started stalling on us, just random stalling. And couldn't quite figure out what it was. We'd take a long road trip, park the car, go into the grocery store, come back out, the car won't start. So I figured symptoms are probably dead battery. But you could turn the car on without turning the motor over. You could just turn the accessory power on and have all the power I needed. But as soon as you try to push the start button to start the vehicle, it wouldn't start. And then I'd get weird codes like the anti-theft system would blink. Then I'd get the traction control, service track light would come on. But those all went away when the car eventually started. So what I started doing was unplugging the battery. I pulled the ECU off, unplugged the battery, let it sit, and in hopes that something would reset or something magical would happen. And after sitting in the car for 5-10 minutes, plug the battery back in, plug the harness back together on the ECU, and then the car would start. We'd be on our way. Well, it started becoming more and more frequent, and so, and this is as spring went into summer and so forth, and it'd get hot, and then this thing, you'd be doing 35 miles an hour down the road, and the car would just completely shut down. It would still have power, but it would shut down. So at that point, I decided, all right, I'm going to get a brand new battery. So I got a brand new battery. That did not resolve the problem. So one thing led to another, and we sort of figured out it was a temperature issue. So we figured something in here may be getting too hot and, triggering something to fail, whether it was a throttle body or maybe a sensor on the engine. Well, I've replaced the ignition switch, the throttle body, and one other sensor. I can't remember what it was, but it did not resolve the problem. So in thinking about things, I figured it was heat related, but I didn't know how. But the fact that I kept unplugging the ECU to disconnect the battery seemed to magically fix the problem. And I think here's what happened was the hood would be open, the heat would come out, it gave the computer, the ECU, time to cool down, and with that cooling down would allow the computer to allow the car to run. It would start up. So I sort of narrowed it down to the issue was right here. So what I started doing every time it would stall on a warm or hot day is I'd unplug the ECU, wait 5-10 minutes with the hood open, and then it would start again. Well, then that started not working anymore. It turned into unplugging the ECU, taking it off the battery, removing the cover, and taking the ECU out and setting it in a cool, breezy area because the ECU was getting really hot to the touch even. So I've thought, okay, it's the computer. So here's what I started doing. I figured since it was heat related, I would park the car in the garage overnight where it's nice and cool, no sunlight. Then I would open the garage door, turn the vehicle on, and then apply some heat to it. So I would take my heat gun and I would apply heat to the unit, and sure enough, I could get the car to stall almost within 3 minutes. Then what I would do is take the ECU out, go inside the house, put it over the AC ventilation and let it cool down rapidly. Put it back in the car, and voila, the car started. So I could duplicate that over and over again. Heat it up, car would stall. Take it inside, cool it down, bring it back, plug it in, car fires up. So I've narrowed it down to the ECU. Well, I have done hours and hours of research online, and I cannot find a solution for this ECU other than to replace it. Well, I didn't want to have to spend $1,000 going to the dealership, so I thought there's got to be someone out there that knows an answer or someone who's gone through this. And I can't find anybody with a solution at all. So I went out and purchased an ECU unit right here that had the exact same part number and service number that my car had, and I got it from Flagship One. So then I thought, okay, well, I bought aftermarket, I could at least go to the dealership and have them use their software and flash the unit. So I took it over to a dealership here in Idaho Falls, the Cadillac dealership, and I sat in the waiting room for 40 minutes only to have them come out and tell me they couldn't flash it, that the software program could not communicate with the Flagship One ECU that I purchased. So I called Flagship One, gave them the rundown, and they basically said, after quite a few phone calls and emails, that they would give me a replacement unit. So I wrote up this form and sent it off to them. They accepted it and then shipped me this unit here. So I just took the unit over to a local independent shop here who attempted to do the same thing with this replacement unit, and they had a similar issue where it could not be flashed, and I have no idea why. He does not have any idea why. He's using GM software. He's a former GM mechanic, lots of experience, and he has similar issues. So he suggested I go to a local junkyard here in town and pick up another unit off of another vehicle, and I did that. So I went down to the local junkyard and picked up this unit, which has, again, the exact same part number and the exact service number. And lo and behold, he put it in the car and he couldn't get it to flash. There was one point where he got about 98% through the procedure, and then it threw an error. I think the error was something to the effect of a communication error, severe communication error, and therefore it couldn't flash. So I'm at the point now where I'm reaching out to you guys. Maybe somebody out there has experience with specifically the Cadillac SRX, again 2011, or specifically with flashing ECUs on these cars, or in general flashing, because I've tried 3 units now and I cannot get this car to run. As a matter of fact, after the second shop couldn't flash either unit, we plugged in the original computer back into the vehicle and the car would not run. It wouldn't even start. It was acting like it did when I stalled on the side of the road. And he spent another hour and a half trying to flash it. He couldn't get it to flash back to the original settings to my VIN number. So I was about to throw my hands up and tow the car home. But then he finally figured out, he said, a backdoor approach to get my original damaged unit or broken unit to reflash. And so then I plugged it back in, drove home, broke down at least one time on the way home, and got it back home. And now I'm here posting this video because I cannot figure out for the life of me what else I can do. I know the unit's bad because it overheats multiple times. Now the problem I have is these aftermarket, or these refurbished units and junkyard units can't be flashed into the SRX. So if you guys have any ideas, thoughts, and believe me, I've been on all the forums, I've reached out to other people, and nobody has an answer for me. Is this something that Cadillac did to prevent people from working on their own vehicles, or having independents flashing replacement computers if you don't buy them directly from Cadillac brand new? I don't know, but if you guys have any suggestions or comments that could get me on the right path, I would certainly appreciate it. I certainly don't want to pay $1,000 to get this thing replaced, but need to get it back on the road and reliable once again. So any help would be appreciated. And you guys have a good day. Thanks.